So here we see
Okay, we have
Reshevsky.
a very interesting line played by Reshevsky with black against Bobby.
You said
Before
yes,
Reshevsky, before Bobby, Reshevsky was the wonder boy from American chess.
he was playing
When
like
he was very small, I mean, he was about 9, 10 years old. He played against strong players. Like he could give a simul, for instance, with 20 players like this, and it was sensation by this time. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah. I
And
think
later
there is
on,
a picture with him on the
yes,
internet
yes, he
playing
was very small
against.
like this. And finally, when Bobby came, it was a threat for Reshevsky. I mean, they were the best American players, both of them. And for 2, 3 years like this, it was a small race. Nobody was very sure who is playing better because Bobby was also very young, and Reshevsky was a very strong grandmaster already. So, of course, the Olympic Games, finally, they had also a very strong team. Bobby played first, Reshevsky played second, and so on. But even so, the Soviets were better. The Soviet players had a stronger team. But all right. So coming back to their game here, we have a normal dragon where Bobby played a little bit unusual for him. I mean, normal line here is to play bishop c4 and f3 and queen d2. Like we saw this line against Gligorich, remember the first
Yes,
game.
yes.
But here is a small difference because sometimes if you play, for instance, bishop c4, in some lines it's possible to play immediately knight g4, and it's not clear at all which is better, again. So white wants to avoid this by playing bishop e2, but this is completely different. It's not the normal dragon anymore, bishop c4, queen d2, castle, and so on. If you play bishop e2, in many lines you have to accept the fact that you have to castle the other side, the king side. So, okay, bishop e2. Now bishop e2 castle, and here f4 immediately. After f4, you have to play d6, because if you play d5, after e5, white is a little better all the time, d5, e5. Okay, so d6, now, d6, knight b3, and here a little bit too provocative, bishop e6 immediately. It was better to play first a5, this is theory, a5, a4, and then bishop e6. And this line is very unclear. Maybe white is a little bit better, but very, very complicated. First a5, a5 forcing a4, and only after a4 bishop e6, theory. Even now is theoretical line. But now is a big difference, because after bishop e6, white has time to push immediately g4. And if you are not careful, he comes immediately, very quickly with f5. So it's move by move, here. So what to do? The normal reaction is to play himself d5. And after d5, again, move by move, I tell you. f5. Of course, now you have to go back, and now white takes, knight b4. And now we have the first very important position. If black has time to take back the pawn in good condition, black is okay, a very good line for black, But as I told you, it's move by move. White is playing here, and therefore the game is very complicated. So he has time to put the bishop in f3, and now if black wants something, has to take in f5, because if you don't take in f5, white has time to push a3, and he keeps the pawn. If he keeps the central pawn without any compensation, it's fantastic for white. So here complicates, very much the game by taking immediately in f5. Now, of course, it's move by move, attacking the knight. He takes first in g4. Okay, it seems that white is pawn down, with tempo, but it's very complicated because he has attacking chances against the king, So now I told you before is forced. Now bishop g2. Now you have to go only in a6. And now white changes against the plan. Again, the plan, and he has chances against the black king. because now the pawn is a little bit, in a risky situation in g4 instead of g6, you see. The position is too open, So we'll see what happens. Queen d3, white is playing just everything like in casino, by one chance, he tries to attack with all the pieces, we'll see, until the end. So queen d3, e6, trying to get rid, of course, of many pieces to eliminate the pawn from d5. But okay, now castle, he takes the pawn on d5, h3. Now, I told you before, it's move by move. If he arrives to this position where he could take himself in g4, black is almost lost in a few moves, very quickly, So has to be very careful and try to defend by only moves here. It seems that the best way to play is to push g3. He doesn't give immediately the possibility to open the position. So now rook g1, quiet, has time. He prepares to take back the pawn in the best way, in g3. Now you can't move the knight from d5 because, the queen is attacked in d8. You lose at least the exchange, So what to do? Queen d6, has to wait. So now he took, and here Bobby took immediately. Afterwards, he commented himself the game, and he recommended first bishop d4. He said that bishop d4 was even stronger. It seems that it was even stronger because he controls all the black squares, and if he takes later on with check in d3, in g3 it's finished, So okay, it seems also that knight d5 is excellent move, of course, no? So he took, the attack continues. Now king h8. All right, so king h8. For the moment, he waits a little bit, and black doesn't lose immediately. This is the problem, So okay, he plays bishop f4, queen g6 again.
Trade the queens.
No, of course, white doesn't trade queens. Okay, and now queen d2. Again, he's preparing to take in g3, but now here he has time to take the pawn from g3 and put a piece in g4, block a little bit the position, like this, with a small to escape somehow, you see. Very instructive game, So the rook takes g3, and now he has time to put the bishop in g4. Now, if you have time to arrive in such a position to have the possibility to play, for instance, with tempo f5, probably you have a chance to escape. If nothing happens very quickly. But until then, the game is very complicated again, and somehow he doesn't have time. We'll see. Or maybe he underestimated a little bit the position. He didn't play first f5. With any risk, he had to play f5 in one moment, you see. Okay, rook h1. You see, he's attacking, all the white pieces are coming, you see.
But why he didn't play now? Maybe this was the good moment to play f5.
Yeah, of course, it was the best way to play, But it wasn't so clear because he's coming again. If the rook was in f8, maybe he thought that after f5, white has time to put the bishop already in h6. If he can trade the bishop, again is very dangerous because the black squares are weak, you see. For black.
Or maybe he was afraid of the knight e7.
Knight e7 doesn't win immediately, but is also dangerous, Every position is very dangerous for black, So, okay, rook e8. It's not a mistake. Rook e8 is possible, And now, what did he play? Knight e3. And now, here, probably it was the last moment where he had to play f5. He didn't play f5. Mistake, Time trouble. Maybe he thought that he has time to come to some activity, queen e4. It seems he's waiting in a very unpleasant position all the time. Now he had one moment where he could play a little bit active, and he played a little bit active, Queen e4. But now, again, very unpleasant surprise, queen h2. Now everything is protected, and white wants to take with tempo in g4, So now what to do? f5 now is impossible because he's mating h7. It is the big difference,
Yes.
The queen has to to be in G6. Now in E4 is too active, you know. Being too active is lost. So now he played bishop E6. So bishop E6. Now, again, everything is forced. Just in time, you know.
Yes.
I mean, it's clear, but it's very beautiful until the end, you know. Activity, you know, he gives the exchange, but the attack is crashing. The attack is crashing because on the black squares, white is coming all over the board, you know. So now, what to do? King G8. All right. King G8. King G2, Rook G1 check. And you have to give the queen in the only chance. Otherwise, he's mate, you know.
Why is mate? Because...
mate in G7 or in
oh,
G6.
yes. Yes.
So queen G6. And now the realization is very easy, you know. So he took, and now, again, white is coming, you see. Knight D4. Well, now it's finished. We see how he can realize very quickly, you know. So Rook D8, and now Bishop E5. Look, Rook D7, the only move now. So he took, and again, white is coming. Knight G4, threatening mate, you know. Mate, taking the rook with Knight F6 check.
Yes.
So the only hope, you see, but of course, white doesn't give two pieces for one rook, you know. So comes back with the queen, but threatening Knight H6 check and Queen D8 check, you know, both. So the only way to do is check. Now King D2, and now, well, he could resign. Okay, he played H5, check in D8, and here he resigned. Why? Because after Rook F8 is Knight H6 check, and he loses every piece. You know. Terrible. You know?
Yeah.
What do you see?
Beautiful.
So,
and I like that you also you enjoy even
fantastic,
now.
Fantastic games, you see. And
Yes.
Bobby, very young, you see, 16 years old, 17 years old. Look at this.
Yeah,
Masterpiece.
masterpiece.
Every game is a masterpiece, you know. Every game.
Yeah.
Well, the best. Therefore, probably or sure, I consider him the best player ever in the history of chess, you know, in the chess history. Well, some others could think differently, you know, maybe Kasparov or Larsen or so on. But nobody had in the best years the results from Fischer. Nobody. You know. You can't beat such a strong player like Larsen 6-0, you know. Beat Petrosian 7 times in 3 or 4 months. You know what it is. In normal years, Petrosian could lose 7 games almost in 10 years or 15 years. You know, very rarely. And against Bobby himself, he declared himself, what can I do? You know, if I lost 7 times in a few months, you know.
In a few months.
Yeah, terrible. Just before Reykjavik, before their match, Spassky against Bro.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, exceptional.
Something else.
Exceptional. Well, out of this world, how they say, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.